You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Check out the Israel Sports Radio store by clicking on the store tab on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Great items such as t-shirts, hats, books, and much, much more. Price does include shipping, and we do ship throughout the entire world. All major credit cards are accepted to make your shopping experience easy and convenient. So once again, click on the store tab on www.israelsportsradio.com.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere. On air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting with locations up and down the East Coast from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools. Redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
Live from Studio C at the Cherry Hill campus for the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, it's All Noise Radio's Sports Talk.
Down goes Frazier. He scores! High fly ball into right field. She is gone!
Welcome to another edition of Sports Talk, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. As always, you want to chime in 856-330-4749, or you can send me a tweet at the Yossi G or a message on Facebook, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk. There's so much to discuss, and first thing, of course, is the situation down in Miami, in South Florida, in Davie, Florida. This whole situation between Jonathan Martin and Richie Incognito, both of which right now are not on the team. One, Jonathan Martin, due to his own volition, and Richie Incognito is not on the team due to, of course, the Dolphins suspending him indefinitely. The story, of course, if you have still been living under a rock since really the story broke on a couple days ago, is that Jonathan Martin, an offensive line player with the Miami Dolphins, as well as Richie Incognito, there was a little bit of a misunderstanding, let's say. We'll call it like that. What really happened, essentially, all that we know, is that Richie Incognito sent things, and left certain voice messages to Jonathan Martin that he in turn looked at and felt like he was being bullied to such a degree that he essentially quit the team. He left the team. Now, there have been those, and myself included, I mean, you can see my article that went up online on 247sportshub.com, where I describe all that of which has happened up until that point. This was Tuesday evening, and things that we knew at that point in time about this whole situation was essentially, obviously it's an ongoing story, a developing story, an ongoing situation, things that are still coming to light, more players, more personnel saying their feelings, describing in their own 2 cents what they saw go on, what they felt had happened for either side of this story. And some of the things that we came across, of course, was this whole, Martin walking away from the situation. Now, we all know as adults, and for those who have kids, we tell our children that if there's a bully at school who is constantly bullying you, either you tell the teacher, you tell the principal, you tell your parents, you tell us. And if none of this works, if the bully still is going out and still every day is harassing you, then you involve the bully's parents. But never, do not, unless, we always try to tell our children to not throw a punch. Don't engage. Stand up to him, threaten him. It always seems to be that avenue that we try to go at, that we try to gain after, is the avenue of diplomacy. A venue that invites, fighting or confrontation, conflict is not one wherein we try to impart to our children, if something like this, they happen to fall into such a situation. But the football locker room, the football environment, the NFL mentality is that if you have a problem with one of your teammates, the words of the NFL players is, be a man. Step up to the plate, so to speak. Step up to the situation, confront this supposed bully to his face, and tell him how you feel, be that verbal or be that with action. And that is one of the key points here in this Incognito Martin saga, is that a lot of players, and that's been coming out the last day or so, a lot of former teammates, a lot of Martin and as well as of Incognito, have gone on and said that Martin, for example, the offensive tackle Tyson Clabo in Miami said that Martin, quote, he brought out this quote. He said that Martin needs to stand up and be a man. So when you have people like that, and also Leiden Murda, he was a member of the Miami Dolphins last year and during the preseason. He played together with Martin when Martin was a rookie. And he said that Martin was an outsider and he was always shy about things. And the question that, of course, comes up is this being the case. Martin's an outsider. Martin is shy. He also comes from what a lot of NFL players would perceive as a privileged background, where his parents are, Ivy League college graduate, college educated, and he kind of grew up in a mentality or in a lifestyle that not many NFL players knew when they grew up. It was always, a lot more often than not, you'll hear the stories where NFL players grew up on the streets. It was a hard life, rough life, getting through things, and look at where they made it to today. So when it come to this point where you have teammates, in a sense, calling out your own manhood and are saying that, hey, look, you have to step to the plate. You have a problem. Deal with it. This is not how you deal with that problem. This is an NFL locker room culture. And the coaches know what goes on in the locker rooms, sure. And what happened here is certainly a failure to communicate, and by no means am I saying that Richie Incognito was correct in the language that he used and things like that. I'm not condoning any of those actions. But it's a little bit larger than just this situation. You look at NFL locker rooms, you can even go so far as to say that this happens all the time, where players who come into the team may not be as strong as a coach may want, both certainly mentally as strong, and maybe a little bit more physically reserved because of that. And coaches want to find a way where they can bring it out of their player that they have on the team, this player that just came in, that they can bring out that toughness that they see in flashes or in glimpses, or in Jonathan Martin's case, a 6'3", 315-pound lineman. 6'5", 315-pound lineman. This is the type of a situation where a coach will look at and say, I got this really big kid here, and I know that he's got something else in him. And I want to find out if he really can tap into that. So I'm going to go ahead. And this is apparently what had happened, where the players knew about this, the coaches knew about this, and the GM certainly knew about this. So everybody was in on this word, name calling, things like that. So apparently what is perceived to have happened is the coaching staff told Incognito, take Martin under your wing and, give him the business and let's see what he can do. Let's see what he's made of. And that seems to have been what had happened. And we see for ourselves at this point in time what Martin is apparently made of. If you are a type of a person with the mental fortitude who will go, and you hear it so often, players describe it, go to war on the football field. Football, unlike most other sports around, is a contact game where a member of this game can lose his life in an instant. So when they describe it as going to war, when these players describe it as such, to a degree there is truth in this. And the question that the players want to know is, the guy to my right or the guy to my left, is he ready to go to war with me? When push comes to shove, will he be ready to lay it on the line for me, for our team, for the organization as a whole? And that's the question here that Joe Philbin and the Miami organization, the Miami Dolphins, wanted to find out when it came to Jonathan Martin. Was he mentally strong enough and capable to grasp this game and play at a level that they believed is possible? Certainly they weren't expecting this reaction from him, where he would throw in the towel. How many other players have you ever heard that threw the towel in because they felt that the shenanigans that were being pulled and I don't want to call it, it's not even bullying. It's name calling, it's constant beratement, yes, but it's being done and has been done since the dawn of this game, the dawn of this sport, since it had begun. It has always been done in a fashion to bring out the best or worst, depending on which side of the coin you're on, in a player. And in this case, it did neither. I mean, well, really, in this case, it just brought out the bad. It just showed what Martin really is. He's weak. There's no other way of sugarcoating it. He is a mentally weak player. And he is going to have a very difficult time going to another team in the NFL, or even going back to Miami Dolphins for that matter, to play. It's going to be very difficult for him because teams evaluate players and they see some players as projects. Some projects don't work out. Take the New England Patriots and Aaron Hernandez. He was taken in the 4th round. He was a project. Bill Belichick knew that. Didn't quite work out so well. Jonathan Martin was seen as somebody who was a project borderline to an NFL starter. And when the Dolphins paid him the money that they paid him, and they saw, what he was able to do as a rookie in the NFL last year, they thought that they can get a little bit more out of him. Well, it turns out that they were really wrong in their evaluation, and that Jonathan Martin is a little bit soft when it comes to football, when it comes to playing football. And that is the question that a lot of the players in that locker room have right now, is not Richie Incognito, oh, we wish he could be here, and it's too bad he's not going to be here with us on Sunday, like Mike Wallace, the wide receiver, said earlier on in the week. But it's why, firstly, Tyson Clabo, the offensive tackle, he also said about Martin, and he doesn't even know why he's doing this whole thing, why he's going public with all of this. Wide receiver Brian Hartline said that Martin joked around about that voicemail in April when he got it. That voicemail where Richie Incognito said everything that essentially is why he's off the team right now, where he made those comments about race and his mother and said things that he probably might regret now. But that doesn't change the fact that all the players, many of his teammates, want to know about Martin. Dude, seriously, what's going on here? Where are you? If you have a problem, step up to the plate. Show you're a man. Jeff Ireland, the Dolphins GM, got a phone call from Martin's agent, and Martin was complaining to the agent, saying he has all these issues. So he wanted to call Ireland, and the agent called Ireland and said, look, my client's got all these problems with this guy Richie Incognito on the football field. And guess what Ireland's response was? Well, stand up to Richie and have him punch him in the mouth. That is the mentality in an NFL locker room. You have a problem, deal with it. You know what would have happened had Jonathan Martin gone after Richie Incognito? Okay, so it's the cafeteria, and everybody's sitting down for lunch, and Richie tells Jonathan, hey man, when you get your plate, come on, sit on the table with all of us. All right, cool, man, no problem. Jonathan Martin gets his plate of food, comes down to sit with all the linemen. As soon as he sits down, the linemen get up and go to another table. Martin goes ahead and calls out Richie Incognito and says, hey, what the heck's all this about? And Richie says, what, you got a problem with me? And Jonathan says, yeah, I do. And then goes ahead and socks him in the face. You know what would have happened at that point in time? There may have been a quick little scuffle, but many of the players would have gotten between them, separated them, and we move on in life. Great. Everybody sees now this player that they were hoping to unearth. They see this ferocious mentality. Or as Damian Woody this morning said on ESPN SportsCenter, he said that finally you're going to now get the house dog and you are going to release the wild dog, which is what you wanted on that football field. But that didn't happen. And now we find ourselves in the situation that we find ourselves. 856-330-4749 Sports Talk.
Honey, again you're sitting here sulking?
I hate my job and I don't know what to do to change it.
Get off the couch and go check out the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
The Connecticut School of Broadcasting? What's that? The Connecticut School of Broadcasting offers a career and lifestyle change through a broadcasting experience you won't ever forget. Log on to GoCSB.com to find out how a career in broadcasting is for you and not just the people you see on TV or hear on the radio. CSB focuses on many aspects of real-world broadcasting, and their knowledgeable instructors teach you through a hands-on approach so you're in the studio in no time. To find out how CSB can help you work in an industry you love, call 1-800-TV-RADIO or check us out online at GoCSB.com. Why work 50 weeks a year for a 2-week vacation when you can enjoy your job every day? Don't just sit there. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Thanks, CSB.
Your computer is blowing up to the sounds of All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Welcome back, Sports Talk here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. As always, you want to chime in, 856-330-4749. Send me a tweet at the Yossi G or a Facebook message, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk with this. Listen, we have this whole thing, right, with this whole Martin Incognito situation, saga, whatever you want to call it. And there are a couple questions that are brought up now. Is, of course, it's Martin's health, it's his mental, fortitude. It's Incognito. Did he go too far? It's in both of their NFL futures. Martin not going to the coaches because he felt that the coaches put Incognito up to this, so, it would be like, where do I find myself? It's real world how do we deal with something like this, a potential bullying situation, versus the NFL locker room, how the NFL deals with something like this. And of course, there are the actual comments that were made, the N-word. And of course, the comments that were made by their teammates and how they feel that this situation should have handled itself, or how Martin should have handled his situation, and how Incognito probably went overboard just a little bit when he used the N-word on Martin in that voicemail back in April. But in terms of the actual, situation, that the actual, saga that's been going on, and some of the factoids that have been coming out, so you have the cafeteria incident where, Jonathan Martin's invited to sit down with all the linemen. He comes, sits down, the linemen all get up. That apparently was the straw that broke the camel's back. You have the voicemail. Okay, the N-word that was used, that is a problem, and probably and likely the reason why Richie Incognito is not on the team right now, why he is suspended. And then you have the Vegas trip, that apparently he had to pay $15,000 for a trip to Vegas that he didn't even partake in. Now, regarding that trip, let's just understand something here, how the NFL, how its linemen work. Again, I'll go back to Leiden Murda, who came out the comments I only first heard this morning, but apparently this was posted on MondayMorningQuarterback.com. That's Peter King's, MMQB.com, Peter King's website, where he said, Leiden Murda, former lineman himself, said that a trip like Las Vegas is something that goes down all the time, something that the linemen all pay for in advance, because what happens is you have this idea that, we want to all hang out and we all want to go together to Las Vegas and bond as a unit, and they prepay all, the flights, the hotel expenses, the meals, dinners, shows, all of that. And then if an emergency happens, okay, you understand that. But here with Jonathan Martin, he said that he just backed out. So, of course, they're going to want to get their fair share of the money, because they don't want to have to eat his portion of the trip if he just backed out because, I don't feel comfortable going. We're going to go to the phone lines now, 856-330-4749, and looks like we have Brian in Baltimore. Brian, what's going on, man? Welcome to the Sports Talk. All right, looks like Brian went down. We'll try to get him back. Brian, you want to call back? Please, by all means. Looks like we got Brian back on the line. Brian, how are you out there?
Hey, how you doing? I don't know if that was a problem with my phone or if you were bullying me too much, like Martin there.
No. I think that may have been a little bit of your phone situation. I look, hey, I'm the sports rabbi. It would not be good for business if I start bullying you.
Yeah, it's like shades of remembering elementary and middle school.
Yeah, look, this whole situation, when you look at it from top to bottom, I mean, how do you feel about this? I mean, you're in Baltimore, and you've had this, you've had the Ravens as a team that you root for. I know you have a big Ravens fan, as it said here in the comments, and you had guys like Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs and all of them. How do you think that they would have handled something like this, were they to see perhaps one of the players, one of the rookies, or even in this case, Martin, a second-year player, they felt was being harassed too much?
Yeah, I mean, I was even listening to Jacoby Jones talking about a story about how even the rookies sometimes will cover the bill as part of a minor hazing in the rookie season for all the veterans will put, expensive, lavish items like lobster and expensive bottles of champagne. The question is, to what line, is hazing done? I know I've been in workplaces where obviously there is a little bit of room for playfulness. What I'm the most surprised here, what I personally believe is the X factor in the situation, is how many current and even previous Dolphins players seem to be coming to the side of Incognito.
Yeah, you look at that. I mean, I've been mentioning a little earlier on in the program, you have Tyson Clavo, the offensive tackle, Brian Hartline, one of the wide receivers, as well as Mike Wallace, who earlier on in the week had Incognito's back, and even Lyden Murda, who was a player with the Dolphins last year, played with them during the preseason before he was cut. And what it seems to be the common denominator between the players that have Incognito's back is that Martin should have stood up for himself, and if he had took issue with something, as they put it, not me, be a man, and, punch Incognito, I don't know, call him out, do something, which apparently was what Incognito was trying to get at with Martin. But they also all agree that Incognito may have gone too far, just a little bit, with the words that he actually used to try to procure this reaction from Martin, the one that they actually wanted, not the one that they actually received.
Well, what I've come to realize in society and the workplace is that people can be a little oversensitive. People can take things the wrong way, and those people have every right, even though they said that Martin did not originally go up the ladder in the correct way as far as speaking to, I'm sure there are psychological representatives on the team that keep things quiet unless it's, so bad. It seems like the players are saying there should have been a little bit more done by Martin's part before he put another guy under the bus and cost him potentially a season paychecks. There's also a bigger belief I have, too, that the players might be sticking up for each other around the league in general, because if this is done once, is this going to cause a pattern of, maybe this could be as simple as a player wanting it out for another player. There's a lot of money on the line here. These guys are so lucky and fortunate to be in a situation to be even making like $1 million a year. And that could be, securing, their generations down the line. And so there's a lot of money being potentially messed with.
Well, the thing with that, the issue that I have with that comment is that when you look at this situation, a lot of players have said that Incognito and Martin were actually very close. They were, besides for the fact that they played next to each other on the line, they were very, very close off the field. These are things that happen all the time. When Martin originally got this voicemail in April, according to Brian Hartline, Martin joked about it. He joked throughout the entire locker room, hey, check it out, look what Richie sent me. This is kind of funny. And now he's going public with this. Tyson Clavo couldn't believe it. He's like, I don't understand why he's going public with this, especially now.
It is possible that Martin could be bipolar. There's already reports that, he's had a host of meetings already with I believe, psychologists that are possibly speaking on his behalf. He's checked himself into some kind of an inpatient place. And if a person checks themselves into an inpatient place, there might already be an underlying mental health issue. And if they were friends, maybe he had some kind of a, isolated attack, if you will, isolated event where he goes off on his teammates, similar to that of a isolated event of a person going into a movie theater and doing so. I'm not going to go that far, but I'm just talking about the issues of some people's mental hardships and how one moment they might be one person, another moment they could be a completely different person.
Well, that certainly is true, and for that reason, I believe firmly that Richie Incognito should count himself a very lucky man, that he's still standing today, that Martin, in this day and age that we live in, like we're mentioning a little bit there, this day and age that we live in, it would not be so far-fetched for somebody to believe that, especially a individual in Martin's situation, where you're on the line of scrimmage, you're an offensive player, you're a professional athlete, you're a big dude, who exactly is going to stop you from bringing a gun to the practice facility? Especially, it's Miami. Florida is a place where guns are very easily available, so he can get one.
If anything, I think I don't encourage threats being made against players, but I think in Miami they want to go a little bit more for Tannehill right now. I think he's the reason of the demise of that team currently.
Well, you look at the whole situation really for the Dolphins as a team, I believe, starts, as it does with most teams, on the offensive line. And you go with how the team has been performing. Certainly this week, I'm sure the odds in Vegas are not exactly favoring the Miami Dolphins now that they don't have two of their offensive linemen on the football field come Sunday, with Jonathan Martin being out for the second straight week, and with Richie Incognito now being suspended indefinitely from the team.
And still, I'm very impressed somehow how Lamar Miller seems to still have rather productive games. In a couple of fantasy leagues, I actually wasn't interested in even touching Lamar Miller, but I was thinking because Martin goes down on the line that Miller doesn't have as good of a game, and the guy still does his thing.
Well, now, we're keeping it over here now for the moment. Now, when you look at this situation, and I know you found things in the workplace, and how would you feel if all the individuals around you, all the people around you, management, coworkers, they're all in on this situation. They're all in on it here, where it seemed, according to what Jeff Ireland told Jonathan Martin's agent, where, he has a problem with Richie, have him punch him in the face, have him stand up to him like a man. If Ireland, the GM, is telling this to Martin's agent, that obviously means that he knows that the coaching staff is in on it and that the players know about it. How would you, if you were in such a situation, feel if you knew that everybody is in on it? That was Ireland who made that comment.
Incognito in the face?
Yep. Wouldn't it seem to be a true and proper reasoning that if Martin kind of feels a little helpless at this point, where there's nobody he can go to?
I don't know how that comment leaked as far as, punching somebody in the face. I mean, to me, that's like the last thing somebody should do. I mean, sure, it's better than going behind somebody's back, but even in any corporate environment, workplace, there should be some kind of human resources that if a person doesn't feel comfortable, maybe after discussing it a little bit with that person that they have the issue with, that they can discuss it in sort of a human resources kind of a level, just in some of the ups in a very closed office setting as to this information not necessarily having to get to the point where people are suspended and players, he's not only Martin now dealing with an issue where he's going to find it uncomfortable to ever play for the Dolphins again. He might have a big issue with the entire players union around the NFL. He even got ex-players like Ricky Williams, who doesn't really have a right to talk considering his time in this league. But even ex-players like Ricky Williams, he got some kind of a connection still to the Dolphins organization. Even he's coming out and saying some things against Martin.
Well, the thing with Martin is that when you're saying here with a PR type of an office setting where he can go into, this is not the real world. This is the NFL locker room, and the individuals who take that PR type of a placement and say that, okay, we're the guy or guys or department that you come to talk to if you have an issue, is the coaching staff. And if he goes to the coaching staff and he tells them, hey, look, I can't deal with this Richie guy, the incognito, the whole thing is just not happening to me. The coaching staff is the one, or is the unit that put incognito up to having Martin chastised all the time. They want to see Martin bring out that inner, as Damian Woody said this morning on ESPN SportsCenter, that inner wild dog. They want to see the house dog turn into a wild dog. And if Martin comes to the coaching staff and says, I can't hack it, then obviously this is going to be a problem because the coaching staff doesn't want him to go down that road. They want him to go down the road where he says, I am going to step up and face incognito if I have to in the cafeteria, make a little tussle, get a little rough with him, and then everybody's happy. Because
at the end of the day, I mean, what kind of results was this guy putting out on the field before he went down? Was he at the left tackle, the right tackle?
He was on the left tackle, but it was a little subpar results that they were getting from him, and they felt that, hey, this is
right there. I mean, I think personally the way to be the biggest man in the NFL is to just do your job well. I know as a Baltimore Ravens fan, Jonathan Ogden would never be bullied on the Ravens, and we probably had a guy in the locker room, and Ray Lewis and Ed Reed over the years that would probably never allow these kind of situations to go public like this.
Well,
it's a weak locker room. If I was a member of the Miami Dolphins organization, I wouldn't be very happy now knowing that it's pretty much the Patriots' division to win. They're in a rebuilding mode. They don't have a lot to be happy about, so it's like they got nothing better to do than deal with drama squabbles like this. Mike Wallace ain't getting anything done. Do the players really have anything else to voice their opinions out on?
That's really it. And, also, when it comes to something like this, when you have a weak locker room, and Brian, we appreciate the phone call here on the.
Thanks for having me on, dude. It was cool talking.
Yeah, no worries, man. And when you have something like this, where you have a player who comes to a situation where there is not a lot of solid leadership, because many of the players are young as well. Many of the players that are on the team, it's the first year that they're there, second year that they're there, even if they've been in the league for a number of years. But that is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with rookies. You're dealing with second, third-year players, or first and second-year players on the Miami Dolphins. There aren't many players that have that veteran leadership capabilities. Now, one of those players who did was Richie Incognito. That's why the coaching staff went to him and said, hey, we need you to do this for Martin. And that's why Martin felt that he couldn't go to anybody else and say, I have a problem with Richie, because there was no other veterans. Everybody was in on this. All the quote-unquote veterans, all the quote-unquote leaders for the Miami Dolphins were in on this, call it, development. We're in on this project. All wanted to see Jonathan Martin succeed on an NFL level, not in the real world type of office situation. Sports Talk, Sports Rabbi here on All Noise Radio, brought to you by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. We'll be right back after this short commercial break. We'll drop some lines on where some of the local NFL teams stand at the halfway mark of this 2013-2014 NFL season.
It's been 48 years Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
All Noise Radio. The noise. The noise you can't ignore.
Welcome back. Sports Talk with Sports Rabbi here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. As always, you want to chime in, 856-330-4749. Send me a tweet at the Yossi G or a Facebook message, facebook.com/Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. We're getting a couple comments also with regards to this whole Richie Incognito, Jonathan Martin thing. And, Dave in New York says that there's no room for this in the workplace at all. I don't care if this is the NFL. I don't care if this is regular work. No room for this in the workplace. And to a degree, I agree with you, Dave, except that this is the NFL and it's not a regular workplace. And although some of the things that were said in actual words should not have been said, the N-word should not have been used, I'm going to slap your mother shouldn't have been used, things along that nature should not have been used. But an NFL team is in it to win it. And unlike in a family where there may be some weak links, weak chains, weak portions of the family, and the stronger part of the family, the stronger parts of that entity bring the weaker ones along with them, are able to drag them, are able to carry the weaker portions. This is a fraternity. This is what the NFL players consider a brotherhood. And in an NFL family, unlike a regular family, in an NFL brotherhood, in an NFL environment, if there are weak links, if there is a weak part of the chain, that part is left behind. The strong parts survive. Kind of like Charles Darwin's theory, the survival of the fittest. That is the NFL. Well, keeping it along here with the NFL, this week kind of puts it as the mid-season for this NFL regular season. And with that, I'm going to bring a little bit of a mid-season report card on the Giants and the Eagles. Reason why not the Jets is because the Jets have the bye week this week. So we'll stick with the teams that are actually playing. The New York Football Giants are at home against Oakland. And although they started 0-6, they are still a little bit in the playoff hunt. They've won 2 straight. They had the bye week last week. They're playing Oakland at home. Oakland just got its backside walloped. A historical walloping. A historical butt kicking by the Philadelphia Eagles last week in Oakland. And now the Oakland Raiders travel to New Jersey, play the New York Giants there. But the Giants itself, we'll talk about the game in a moment. The Giants, the quarterback gets a D. Eli Manning, he's maybe 12th in the NFL passing yards, but he's 31st overall in passer rating and 27th total quarterback rating. He's number 1 still in interceptions in the league, even though he hasn't thrown one in almost a month. And he's got 5 intentional grounding penalties. That's 3 more than the next closest opponent. So when you look at Eli and evaluate him as a complete quarterback in the first half of the NFL season, he's done more to contribute to his team losing than he's done to his team winning. And for that matter, that is why I give him a D. The running backs get a flunking grade, F, because there really is no running backs on this team. Andre Brown, injured. David Wilson, injured. Darrell Scott, useless. Brandon Jacobs, injured. They're 30th in the NFL in rushing yards per game and per attempt. The running game is a lack thereof here. The wide receiving core gets a C- simply because they have Victor Cruz. And that's it. Ruben Randall could catch a little bit sometimes from time to time. Otherwise, the team is an F outside of those 1.5 wide receivers. The offensive line is atrocious. Worst run and pass blocking offensive line in the NFL. The defensive line is solid against the run, but they've only had 10 sacks, and that ranks them second to last in the NFL. And the linebacker defensive backcourt gets a C because they've been able to do something, which has obviously caused for the team to win a couple of games, but obviously not enough, and that's why the team is where they stand. One of the reasons why the team is where they stand today. The Philadelphia Eagles, the quarterback gets a C+, and thank you very much, Nick Foles, against Oakland last week with your 7 touchdowns, record-tying best display ever by a quarterback in the history of the NFL. 7 touchdowns, no interceptions, 6 incompletions, and a perfect 158.3 quarterback rating last week. Thank you very much, Nick Foles. The running back situation gets a B+ because of LaShawn McCoy being stud-like, and the reason why it's a B+ and not in the A category is because Bryce Brown flat out stinks. The wide receiving core, he gets a B because Deshaun Jackson really is just a north-south runner. He's fast, can't really play much in the slot, but he can still burn you deep because of his speed. Riley Cooper, deceptively quick, has certainly benefited from his connection with Nick Foles, and Jason Avant has been solid, but certainly far from spectacular. The offensive line, C- because you expected a lot from this unit, especially with the pedigree that it has, but they've been underperforming up to this point. The defensive line is a complete opposite of the offensive line. You thought that when the team switched over its defensive format, that the defensive line would take time for it to adjust, or would take time, a season or two, till it actually was able to conceptualize and internalize everything that this new defensive scheme under Chip Kelly was supposed to bring to the table. But they have by far performed better than their preseason expectations. Fletcher Cox, Cedric Thornton, they are absolute gamers. The rest of the defensive line are also performing admirably. So they overall get that A-. And the defensive back and the linebacking core gets a B- because, yeah, they did have the debacle against Denver. They gave 52 points to the Broncos. But since then, both these units have played fairly well. There aren't any shutdown guys in the defensive back, no shutdown corners or anything like that. But they play able enough that they certainly are an upgrade from last year, and as such, perform solidly. In terms of the game this week, Giants they have to beat Oakland. I mean, now every game now is kind of like a playoff game for the Giants because they have to win out in order to have a shot at dreaming of sniffing the playoffs. Dallas is in New Orleans playing against the Saints at home in New Orleans. And the Saints have been coming off this embarrassing loss to the Jets in New York, so they're certainly going to want some retribution. Oakland is going to be a tough fight because they also got dismantled at home last week against the Eagles. So the Giants had a week and a half to prepare, almost 2 weeks to prepare for the Raiders, so they certainly should be able to give them fits and have a good shot of winning this game. Philadelphia Eagles may have gotten a little bit of a blessing from the football gods after breathing some more hope into this team. Nick Foles goes off against Oakland, like I mentioned. Then Aaron Rodgers gets his shoulder destroyed last week, and he's out of the game. And you're talking about Seneca Wallace starting for the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay against the Philadelphia Eagles. Certainly a game that the Eagles are able to win, and probably should win this game on Sunday. When I come back, we'll break down some hockey action, talk about this whole fighting situation that's been plaguing the league, and has it gone too far? You're listening to Sports Talk with us here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Don't change that dial.
You know, our jobs occupy more than half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Your computer is blowing up to the sounds of All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Welcome back, Sports Talk here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. You want to chime in, 856-330-4749, or send me a tweet at the Yossi G, or a Facebook message, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. Fighting in the hockey has really been getting out of hand. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention lately, the amount of fights that have been going on. You can argue, even the purists can argue that it may be getting out of hand just a little bit. Everybody, I think, can agree that there is a reasoning why fighting is in hockey. You may not agree with the reasoning, but you can agree that there is a reasoning why fighting is there, and simply that's because it kind of allows the game to police itself. A referee cannot have his eyes everywhere, and if he misses a call and some other, a player on another team takes offense to that non-call that was, well, frankly, not made, he can then take matters into his own hands to a degree and settle the score, and this way everybody kind of moves on and it kind of keeps the game in check. Then you have this idea of a line brawl, where something happens, something's getting a little out of hand, perhaps it's the game's the score, the team's not playing up to where they should be, so a couple players, one line decides, that's it, we're fighting, we're going to start something now. This next puck drop, we're going to fight because we want to try to get a little spark going, a little fire under our teammates' backsides. A line brawl every now and again, alright, not the end of the world. Except that this line brawl was Philadelphia and Washington. The Flyers and the Capitals faced off, and the Philadelphia Flyers not only did not show up in this game, not only were they listless, 7-0 they were beaten by a Alex Ovechkin-less Washington Capitals team. So everybody kind of remembers this whole press conference in Philadelphia a few weeks ago, where after a 0-3-0 start, the then coach Peter Laviolette is fired, and his assistant coach Craig Berube is his now new replacement for the season. That was less than a month ago. And you kind of wondered, where was the team going with this? Laviolette, okay, if you're going to fire him after 3 games, you should have fired him in July, but whatever, fine. But why Berube? This is a guy who all he's done with the 5 teams that he was on over the course of his career, including the Flyers, was finish top 10 on the all-time list for penalty minutes, over 3,100 of those. So why bring somebody like this that is really steeped into this whole Broad Street bully type of a mentality? If you're really trying to move away from that and you're trying to promote your team and be awesome and try to get a cup, why this? So there was, of course, Ed Snyder's by this press conference, and he says that we are doing our damnedest to win the cup. Really? Are you sure? Maybe a fresh perspective is needed, don't you think? So Snyder, to that question that was asked by columnist Mike Cielski, he's a columnist here in Philadelphia. Snyder said no, that we don't need a fresh perspective. We have a pretty good culture, and we know who we're dealing with. Obviously, they know who they're dealing with. This is a guy who's played for the team. This is a guy who is that Broad Street bully type of a guy. And guess what? The team still stinks. Ray Emery, goalie for the Flyers, went on an unprovoked assault. It wasn't an attack. It wasn't a scrum. It wasn't a fight. It was a straight-up assault on Braden Holtby when these 2 teams played. He went up to Holtby during the line brawl and said, "We're going in now." Holtby's like, "I don't want to fight." Emery said, "Drop him, protect yourself, because I'm coming in right now." Bang, bang, bang. And they start fighting. Or more like Emery just, goes in on Holtby. And the Flyers' own play-by-play guys didn't even miss a beat throughout this whole thing. The way that they described is Ray Emery, the best fighter of all goaltenders ever. He's got Holtby in trouble. He's pounding Holtby in the far corner. Nobody's coming to Holtby's aid. He's down on the ice just taking a beating. Holtby absolutely is getting MMA, KO dummied out there. Not only did that happen, but so much so where the referee, Francois Saint Laurent, did not only intervene, but he waved away Capitals players from trying to interfere. The question that you now have to ask is, what happens if Ray Emery would have landed a punch on Braden Holtby, which would have caused Holtby to land face first and not regain consciousness? What happens if Holtby would have come out of this assault on him, unprovoked assault on him, with more than just a couple lumps on his forehead? What happens if he would have gone into convulsions or something like that on the ice? Then what? The point simply here is Ed Snyder got exactly what he wanted. And that's the culture of Flyers hockey, and that's, to some degree, the culture still in the NHL. That you're going to have Broad Street bullies. You're going to have players who want to fight and brawl their way to a championship, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to work, not in this new NHL, not in this new era. The Flyers are losing more games than they're winning, and the players are not just losing the fights that they somehow used to be able to galvanize the team, but they're losing the war. If you want to keep hockey, and you want to keep fighting in hockey, then you best do your damnedest to reevaluate how you approach fighting in the league. On a little softer note, tonight, right now, the New York Rangers are playing the Columbus Blue Jackets, or actually about to start. And this is the first time that the new Columbus Ranger Jackets have been playing against one another since, they've made a couple of exchanges of players and coaches. Just to give you an idea, former Rangers who are now on the Blue Jackets are Marin Gaborik, Artem Anisimov, Brandon Dubinsky, Fedor Tutin, Tim Erickson, okay, he's playing in the NHL, and Jonathan, Erickson and Jonathan Mershasol are both playing in the NHL. And they also have John Davidson. He's the president of the team. He used to be with the Rangers. Craig Patrick also used to be with the Rangers. He's a senior advisor. And Jody Shelley used to play with the Rangers, and he's a broadcast associate with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Conversely, former Jackets now on the Rangers, Rick Nash, Derek Brassard, Derek Dorsett, John Moore, Anton Stroman, and Aaron Johnson, who's playing in the AHL for the Rangers. Scott Arniel, the assistant coach, he used to coach the Blue Jackets. So you have an idea. I have an idea. Let's play a game, a drinking game. I think this would be kind of fun. Take a drink for every time a Ranger Blue Jackets kind of infographic, a crossover infographic is displayed on the screen tonight. You know, when you have like a player like Rick Nash, you know, what he's done while on the Rangers, what he's done when he was in Columbus, something like that. Take a drink. Or if a former or current Ranger Blue Jacket, however you want to put it, scores a goal, you take a drink. If Fedor Tutin throws a hip check, take a drink. If a broadcaster, probably courtesy of Jody Shelley, references some former teammates catching up over dinner, take a drink. If a player interview is shown on screen for the sole purpose of talking about his former team, gotta take a bonus drink. Especially if some player uses the phrase, I love my time there, it was great. If they use that phrase, gotta take a drink. If it's especially if it's followed up with, but I'm happy to be here now, that you gotta take another drink. A second extra drink. But here comes fun times as well. More bonus drinks that you would have to take, and then we'll get to 2 drinks, and then of course the all-out chug. 2 drinks is a couple of bonus drinks if you hear somebody say, "Oh, no hard feelings," or you hear the word emotional used by the broadcaster, or you hear the phrase "a fan favorite" used to describe a guy like Brandon Dubinsky as a Ranger or Derek Dorsett as a Blue Jacket. Or if you read a Ranger fan tweeting about how he wished that they had some current Blue Jacket who used to be on the Rangers. Let's say somebody like Dubinsky or Gabrick. If they wish that they had them back, then you got to take a drink. Now, for 2 drinks, if you see a Rangers jersey while watching the game, you see a Rangers jersey in the crowd, that's 2 drinks, man. Or gal. If you see that the New York Rangers Twitter account and the Blue Jackets Twitter account snarkily tweeting at each other, then you got to take 2 drinks. If you see Derek Dorsett and Brandon Dubinsky fight, that is a 3-drink drop of the hat right there. And then if you see Derek Dorsett and anybody on the Blue Jackets fight and then fist bump after, you got to take another drink. I wrote these down from different tweets and posts and stuff that I found them on. So that's why I'm kind of smiling to myself. If you see Jody Shelley offer any in-game commentary that you deem irrelevant, you got to take a drink for that. Now for the chug. If Brandon Dubinsky is announced as the new Blue Jackets captain before the Rangers game, you've got to chug whatever is in your hand. Now, in order to buy out the entire liquor store for everybody on your street, if Gabrick scores 5 goals, Lundqvist watches from the bench and whistles, or Peter Pruka happens to be mentioned, you gotta buy the liquor store out. There's no other way. This is how it's gotta go down. Well, we'd like to thank all those for listening, everybody for chiming in online or actually giving a phone call in here, getting their voices heard on the program. And it's that time again. Unfortunately, we gotta call it the end of the show. And we'd like to thank all my hands on deck who helped pitch in to make this program happen. Of course, on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Until next week, keep it honest, keep it sweet, and always enjoy the adventure.
All Noise Noise Radio. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio. The noise you can't ignore.